Yeah. Oh well, it's all good.
Oh well, we are live finally now. Hey,
Okay.
we are
Hey.
live with Witt. We
I
are going
mean,
to.
that's
Sorry.
that's worse. That's worse than a Zoom update right when you join.
Okay, if anyone's trying to understand the context of what Witt just said, we were meant to go live. I clicked live. Witt was just there, like staring at the screen, and no one else was there with us. I had just dropped off because StreamYard was like, "Not today, son." But anyway, we are now live. We've got a few people watching along who are clearly interested what Slater is, why it's superior, in our humble opinions, to other things out there for Webflowers who are trying to do custom code in their projects. And maybe we can do a little demo if we've got time today. Whit, what do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, it's groovy. So the reason why I'm joined with Whit is because Whit is the man. And I think what we're going to do, if you're happy to do this, Whit, is basically to just have a kind of conversation where I'll tee you up to answer a question, and I
Sure.
might add in anything else that I think is relevant. But first of all, the big nuggety question that people want to know the answer to is essentially, why should they care about Slater?
It's a great question. I think that for me and for us when we started building this, what we wanted to do was have something that was specifically made to work with Webflow, something that sped up the process of deploying and hosting custom code, so we didn't have to publish to see our updates every time. But then also, like, one of the things, as we kind of started integrating some of the chat functionality, and I talk about this all the time, but just it literally is teaching me how to write better JavaScript, and in some cases teaching me to write JavaScript I didn't even know existed. So that's one thing, and I think speed is the other.
Awesome. And just to double down on what you said there, I mean, Edgar Allan Agency wanted to basically do custom code in Webflow better.
Yeah.
There's a 10,000 character limit in Webflow, which is pretty frustrating to use. So obviously you've got to host that code somewhere else. But then also Jared, who is the maestro in Edgar Allan, he's an incredible developer. A lot of the Webflow team a lot of the Edgar Allan team were asking him questions, and he was like, why doesn't AI just help answer this stuff? So that's the other thing as well. You're trying to learn how to manipulate code using the power of Slater, but also ensure that there's a real streamlined process from custom code in Slater to Webflow specifically. And I just think that's really, really important to highlight because, yes, there are other coding tools out there. It's not like Slater is the only tool out there, nor is it the only AI coding tool out there. But it is the only AI coding tool specifically for Webflowers built by the leading Webflow agency. And I just think that that is so crucial to understand. We are at not even 1% of what Slater is going to become, and people are already excited about it. So over to you, Whit. Let's talk a little bit more about Slater in Webflow. I think what might be kind of useful is if I put the website in the chat, and while I'm doing that, maybe we could have a little look at Slater together, just in case someone's like, okay, Jack and Whit, yeah, this Slater thing does sound kind of cool, but how easy is it to set up a Slater project within Webflow? And can we have a little look at it maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get it going on my end. So one of the other things too that we're working on features wise is just how tightly we integrate with Webflow. And I mean, I don't know, watching the keynote speech last week, I mean, the stuff that they've got coming in is incredible. And we were talking with Jeff McAvoy yesterday on Twitter. He's figured out how to use Slater to actually access some of the spline code to like manipulate it in different ways. We're looking at ways to connect Spline to the CMS, to localization, things like that. Slater is kind of like the intermediary for the JavaScript for that stuff. So let me share my screen.
Yeah, of course. And I'll put that up there. Just in case anyone in the chat has any questions. By the way, got a few people in there, so feel free to ask anything while we're doing this as well.
So this is our massive Edgar Allan project trove, which we won't have to totally dig into. I'll just pull up some stuff that we were doing with Jordan. But one of the things that I've been doing lately with Slater and Webflow, and we'll just do kind of one from the get-go, is just asking it like how to approach certain problems, right? So I've got, let me get my Webflow. I'm going to turn this off for just a sec because I'm going to share my entire screen. And it may be a little small, but hopefully not. All right. Okay, cool. So is actually just asking it stuff that I don't even necessarily know how to approach, because I think that's one of the things when we do some of the demos, we're showing it from a standpoint of saying, hey, you know, if you kind of already familiar with terminology of code and things like that, stuff is super easy. Not everybody's familiar with that stuff, so there's different ways we can interact with it in kind of that educational capacity. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new Slater demo page, and what we'll do over here, super easy. I'm just gonna go ahead and make the connection, but this little script tag down here, again, apologies if this is super small. Let me zoom in a little bit. Is that better? Yeah. Okay, all right. Because on my end now, it's like, whoa. All right, so I'll copy that over. I go over to my Webflow site, and I'm gonna just drop this in before the close body tag, and that's it. Like that establishes, as soon as I publish, Slater and Webflow are now connected. And that's it. So from my new file, I'm just going to start asking some questions. So one of the other questions, Jack, that we get fairly often is like, why would I even want to use custom code in Webflow? Because I mean, Webflow does so much stuff so incredibly well. You can build sites without writing any JavaScript at all. And you can build amazing sites without writing any JavaScript at all. But sometimes you want to take it just a little bit further. You know, maybe there's a library that you've seen implemented on a non-Webflow site that you're interested in trying, or there's something you want to get that maybe isn't necessarily as readily available through the native interactions, which, you know, that's a rare thing. There's so many different ways you can use that stuff. But that's kind of what this is. You know, Slater is to say that for those instances where I'm saying, I want to do something that's a little bit beyond the bounds of native Webflow, and I'm not really sure where to start. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna say, so let's look at like GSAP or animation. I'm not even gonna say GSAP. I'm just gonna say like, let's talk animation for collection items from a CMS. So I'm gonna say, okay, I always start with, please help me figure out how to. So let's say we want to animate collection items sequentially as they load in the window. All right, so I'm going to say animate items as they become visible in the browser one by one. I'm just going to start with that. We'll see what it says back. And okay, cool. So it is going to give me some CSS and some JavaScript. And one of the things that's really cool, so it's going to give me an HTML demo of kind of like how these items might be. You could look at that and say like, okay, cool. This is basically the structure that the CMS is going to return. It's got a couple of CSS pieces. We actually do host CSS in Slater as well now, so we can connect that stuff. But what I also think is really cool is that if I'm coming into this code and it's saying, okay, it says you can use libraries like GSAP. So let's say I've never heard of GSAP. So I'll say, please tell me more about GSAP. And it's going to go through, one of the cool things, Jack, is this stuff is familiar with the documentation of a lot of different external libraries. And so if you come in, like you said, you don't necessarily have to personally have familiarity with some of this stuff, but if you're coming in cold and you're saying, this is the problem I'm trying to solve, and you can be really loose at the start, really general in your terms, it's going to help you kind of dial in what you're trying to do. So I'm saying, okay, GSAP, I'm unfamiliar with that. Tell me about it. And it's going to give me kind of a cost benefits analysis of GSAP. It's going to bring in some of the GSAP API terminology. It's going to give you like a really simple example of how to animate an element with GSAP. And then, okay, so then let's say, how do I use GSAP? Let's keep it really general.
Yeah. And I think what's also really important to say here is that, so you've got Slater, you've got Webflow. In the bottom of the screen there, where that yellow writing says script, you literally just copy the script, put it into the body tag of your Webflow project. That's now linked. That's how easy it is to now do custom code in your Webflow projects, okay? And now we've obviously got, Witt's doing prompts. He's just said you can do broader prompts to just get ideas. Like you might just have like a rough idea of what you want to get, or just actually just be like, what is GSAP? Or, ask quite general things. And then you can get closer and closer to the thing that you're actually trying to do. And then you can kind of pincer that in Slater once you've got a very direct, thing that you're trying to achieve. And that's kind of where we're going with this. So back to you.
Yeah, all good. And so it will tell you kind of where the GSAP CDN is. It looks like I got an error on this piece, but so I can just ask for the GSAP CDN link. But again, with prompting and using Slater, you can use it truly as just like kind of a as-you-go educational tool that helps you refine your own prompts, helps you dial into like a specific technology that you might want to use. But it's also really, really good at explaining why it's doing what it's doing. So I'm saying, okay, give me the CDN link. I've got that. I'm going to come over here and paste this into my project. And we got that. Now we need, and I'll generally actually paste in the CDN link before the Slater code, just to make sure that it loads sequentially. And we'll save that. I'm going to go ahead and I've got a demo collection here. And I'm going to set up a collection list with that demo collection. And for each one of these items, I'm going to give this a class name. And we'll just go really simple. Give it a class name of collection item. And again, this may be tough to see, so I'll zoom in a little bit. And in that, we're just going to add an image that's already set up in there. I just want to give you a quick demo of kind of how, once you've got it connected, we can actually make this stuff work. All right, so that is that. We'll go ahead and publish this. And over here, we do have some code that it's already generated. So we've got basic stuff here. It did give us a few different ways to use an observer. And so what I'm going to say in this case is, can you provide some JavaScript to handle animating each item as it's visible in the browser? And then, because now we're familiar with GSAP, I'm going to say using GSAP. Let's see what it gives us. All right. And one of the things that's kind of cool is it gave us this. With our observer, again, it's given us our explanation. I can copy this code over into here. What you're generally going to want to do is, like, let's say over here, I've got my collection item, and these are all named, with the collection item class. You can also use attributes for the same kind of thing and just query the attribute. And if you're not familiar with that, you can even ask Slater how you might use attributes in Webflow for that. But I'm going to say I've got my collection item here. So you can edit the code as it comes back. You can also repaste the code back in, have it make edits for you. it's really pretty wild. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this and push that to production. And then we're gonna look at our demo site and see if it's doing anything. And so we've got this loading, and it is not immediately firing. So we will just look real quick and see what's happening. All right, so that's loading. And collection item. One thing you can also do, and this is something just that I've done from practice, is move our GSAP script up into the head tag so it loads earlier. Save that, publish it. And then what it is doing, let's see. I want to stagger that as it's available. And fingers crossed. Okay. All right. Man, I tell you what, live demos.
Live demos are the one.
Yeah, let me just try this again.
While you're figuring that out, by the way, if anyone has any more questions, we can answer those. We've got a couple from Robin and Martin. So what about after we've tackled the demo, we can have a look at those questions?
Yeah, we can go through questions as I'm doing this too. It's I can multitask if you want.
I mean, that's some serious multitasking.
Let's see. Okay, that's it.
Like let's have a look at the let's have a look at showing these guys the GSAP scroll first, and then.
All right, cool. This code is going to come back across, so it's going to give us, like, I can recognize some of this stuff. So let's see. So we're going to say we'll bring this over. I'm going to copy that in, and we're going to make this collection item. Save that. And there we go. So now it's going to come in. So that's not exactly what we want because it's not animating them as they come in the browser, but it is giving us that initial staggered animation. So then what I could do is come back over here and say, okay, thanks, please and thank you. Thanks, but I need them to animate as they become visible in the browser, not all at once. And usually what it does, it's very cordial and very cheerful as it does this stuff. So it's like, apologies for the confusion. It's all good, Slater, no worries. And so it's going to give us this new code, which uses an intersection observer, which I'll be honest, like I'm vaguely familiar with what that is. But the main thing is it knows and can say, okay, based on this, try this. So now, a collection item, get a typo in there and things stop working. Okay. And still firing all at once, but it is animating.
Wait, just so we don't run over time, because you've got another call in 7 minutes.
I do. It's all good.
I'm just thinking we should probably get to these questions.
Yeah.
But essentially, guys, you can see how easy it is to manipulate code now. You can say, just in baby language, hey, this isn't working. Can you explain why? There's also a debug code feature where you can highlight the code and then click debug in the top right. You can invite team members. There's loads and loads of stuff that we're not going to have time to show you today. But essentially, if you are trying to do custom code in your Webflow projects, this is a good place to start. So let's get to the questions. Robin,
yes.
Can we build a simple e-commerce cart with cash on delivery?
I mean, yeah, but it would be that's an application level kind of database management thing. Like you could absolutely build that in this, but that is going to be a multi-step thing that would require a server, a payment processor, things like that. In theory, you could prompt your way through building each step of those different things. It would take a pretty long time, but the thing with prompting, I kind of always talk about it like it's kind of like a dance. So you start with something, you get something back, you see how that works, and you can think about any problem you're trying to solve with code in chunks. So like what you want to do is have chunks that are there we go. All right, so now that's animating as it becomes visible. But sorry, so you think of it in chunks. So you can say like, I want to get this base thing accomplished first. So like if you see what I was doing with this GSAP example, saying first thing I want to do is make sure that's animating something. Cool, it's animating something, but it's not quite right. So we refine that prompt and say, here's what's happening. How can I approach that? And then it's going to give you something else. If you were to go through and do an e-commerce cart with payment processing or with cash on delivery, which would honestly probably be even more complicated than payment processing, because you would need to track what's happening at the destination. You'd need to interact with APIs from shipping companies and things like that. I mean, again, I think, yeah, you absolutely could do it, but it would take a really, really long time. And you would probably want to have someone that was at least semi-familiar with some of those technologies with you as you were doing that. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah, Robin, let us know if there's any follow-up questions from that as we have the last few minutes of this. But yeah, that is I mean, yes, you can do that, but it's I would I mean, I would see if there's an application that you can use that's already been built. But yes. Okay, Martin says, no code expertise only here. How does this compare to a tool like FinSuite's Wiz? Assuming this is more a JS library CDN, no virtual DOM. God, for someone that's no code expertise.
I was going to say, that's a great question. I mean, I think this is, Wiz is definitely geared more towards people who have a development background, people that are coming in and, I've seen like the WWX stack that I can't remember Glenn's last name, but he's got a course that he's doing on that, which is essentially trying to use Webflow, Wiz, and Xano as like a bubble recreation, which is super interesting. Like that's I'm actually really excited to dig into some of that stuff myself. I think the thing that one of the main differences between Wiz and Slater is, I would say generally speaking, Slater is simpler. Like it's meant to be a little bit easier to interface with. We host all your JavaScript for you via Slater, so like you can create, write, link, deploy from this one place. Wiz actually might host JavaScript through their IDE too, but Wiz is definitely geared more towards people that have a level of familiarity with code. It's a killer product, like don't get me wrong, but this is really more geared towards people that have a specific problem they're trying to solve. They're maybe not totally sure how to approach it. They need somewhere to host their JavaScript and kind of speed up custom code while also getting up the learning curve with custom code. So that's, I mean, to me, those are the kind of the biggest differences.
Yeah. So we've got Lars here. What kind of prompts would you recommend to a beginner using Slater?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's just like the key to prompting that I'm seeing and in my experience is just asking really good questions and asking, getting really good at kind of describing what it is you're trying to do. There's a concept in programming of pseudocode, and that's literally just like writing out, like you're writing a story of what you expect to happen, like what you would want to happen. Pseudocode makes for amazing prompts. To me, like if you're just looking for something really fun to mess around with, that's not necessarily like client facing stuff, I would say read up a little bit on like Three.js, GSAP, any of these external libraries that handle motion and animation, WebGL, that kind of stuff, and just start seeing what you can make. Because it's a lot of times with Three.js, it's really just about establishing a connection between Slater and Webflow, and then kind of getting a prompt that's going to get you a starting point and then tweaking it. But it's super fun. I actually do this all the time just for myself to see what I can get back from it and what I can get it to do. But the other thing is, you can use it just like you would query ChatGPT or anything else like that and say, hey, I'm interested in JavaScript. Can you give me like the most basic overview of how I might do X? Or can you just tell me, where should I start? There's no real right or wrong approach. I think it's really just, my thing with all of this is to try to have as much fun with it as possible, and also just, get more familiar with the tools that we have available to solve the problems that come up in the work that we're doing.
Yeah. So essentially, Lars, get in, have a play, ask whatever you want answered, and you'll quickly get a feel of how to get the most out of Slater depending on what you're trying to achieve.
And also Lars or anyone else on the stream, if there's anything particular about this or even about custom code that y'all ever want to talk through, you can find me on Twitter at input output, or that we have a Slater Slack that you can access. But we're here to kind of help you figure out how best to use it for yourself. So just let us know, and we love this stuff. So
yeah,
talk about it a lot.
Yeah. There's more questions coming in, but I'm afraid
I can go for a few more minutes.
Okay.
If you can.
I actually have a call, and I'm the one hosting this on my
Okay.
account. I might need to. I guess I could mute myself, and you could just carry on.
Sure. Yeah. And again, if people have questions that we're not able to get to in this, seriously, like hit me up directly. Send me a DM. I'll hop on a Zoom, whatever y'all want.
Okay, I'm gonna remove myself from the channel, and you can just carry on. Cool. Is that really weird?
I don't know if I can see everything. Like I can't see the questions coming in. So
on the right, you don't have the same.
Oh, in the comments. Yep. No, I got it.
You got it? You got it? Okay, so Martin, Robin, Lars. Yeah, feel free to carry on, guys.
Cool.
I'm going to just remove myself for a minute, and then I'll end the stream when we're done, okay?
All right, let's see. Yeah, thanks, Jack. I'm muted. Robin, I was talking about your API question. You would just need to probably want to set up like a call to Webflow API to be able to add CMS items. You can probably do that through. Can y'all hear me now?
I think I'm going to need to end the call because I can't.
Okay.
Sorry, I've I actually have a call right now that I've got to go to, guys. This is not good organization for me.
All good. All good. Please hit me up on Twitter. I'm at input output. And again, if anyone wants to pick up this conversation, we can get on a Zoom. We can jump on a Google Meet, whatever y'all would like to do. But I would love to talk about any of this stuff with you for your specific use cases.
Yeah. And I would add to that at Slater_app on Twitter. If you don't have a Slack invite, you can get that by just going to the Slater.app website, or you send me a DM on Twitter. We're going to be doing these types of live streams every week, so feel free to get in, have a play. If you have questions, we can ask them live on the stream. The other thing is, anything like super specific to a project that you're working on or whatever like that you might not want to bring to a stream so much as just like have a call. We can sort that out in Slack as well. Okay.
Definitely.
Appreciate you all for asking so many good questions.
Thanks, yeah.
Sorry that this is a little bit haphazard today, but we are gonna sort out more live streams for you all to get your questions answered. Okay.
Thanks, y'all.
Have an amazing day, guys. Bye.
Bye.